Welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's video. Today's video is especially disturbing because we explore three men who were not only serial killers, but were also police officers. When we think of police, generally, we picture a person that is there to help and protect the citizens of whatever city or town they serve. Unfortunately, these three men preyed on the civilian population of the places they served. Let's get into it. Mikel Popkov. Mikel Popkov was a police officer in Russia and has the distinction as one of the worst serial killers ever. Most therapists that have met with Popkov believe his hatred for women began in 1992 when he suspected his wife of having an affair with another man. Mikhail abused his power and trustworthiness as a police officer to lure unsuspecting victims to their deaths. He would frequent bars and lounges late at night near closing time. He would then find women that he saw were the most inebriated and offer them a safe ride home. Popkov would offer the women more alcohol, and once the women had gotten into his vehicle, he would take them to a secluded area outside of town. He would mutilate the women's bodies, garnering himself the nickname the Werewolf. In 2015, Popkov would be convicted on 22 counts of murder. At this time, he confessed to killing 59 other women. On December 10, 2018, he was convicted of 56 of the 59 deaths that he confessed to. Popkov had a confirmed total of 78 murders, although it is suspected that he may have been involved in the disappearances of over 200 women. He would use whatever weapon he could find to carry out his bloodlust. He was known to attack with baseball bats, knives, screwdrivers, and axes. He had no remorse whatsoever for the horror that he brought upon his victims, and as a matter of fact, he felt that he was doing a good thing. He is quoted as saying, "The victims were those who at night, without being accompanied by men and without a specific goal, drunk or on the streets, behaved frivolously, carelessly, were not afraid to engage in conversation with me, get into the car, and then ride in search of adventure. I had a desire to teach them and punish them." He went on to say that he was cleaning the city from fallen women. He is serving life in a Russian prison.
Anthony Jax Sully. Anthony Jax Sully, as he was known, served as a police officer in Millbrae, California from 1968 to 1974. After his service as a police officer, he began electrical contracting. It was during these years that Sully would find his deep love for the drug cocaine. Anthony had a habit of using an escort service owned by a friend of his, Tina Livingston. His favourite pastime was to engage the services of one of these women and freebase cocaine all night. Anthony Scully's first victim was Gloria Fravel. Fravel owed her pimp, Tina Livingston, $500, so Sully decided that this woman needed to be punished. He tied Gloria upside down from the ceiling of a warehouse that he owned in the city. He kept her in this position while torturing and sexually assaulting for several days, in the belief that what he was doing was right because Gloria owed Livingston money. She eventually was able to free the restraints from her mouth. It was at this time that she began to call out for help. Sully then beat her to death. He had three forms of attack: beating, stabbing, and shooting his victims. He revelled in the torture of the women that he had captured. Most of his victims were sealed in 55-gallon drums and dumped them in the Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, which is what led to his capture. In 1983, he was convicted of 6 counts of murder. The 6 victims were made up of 5 women and 1 man.
Gerard John Schaefer. Gerard John Schaefer was a sheriff's deputy in Martin County, Florida. Schaefer was a special kind of demented. He loved the act of psychologically torturing his victims. While on patrol in his police cruiser on July 21, 1972, Gerard John Schaefer kidnapped 2 teenage girls. He drove the girls to a wooded area and tied the 17 and 18-year-old girls to a tree. He spent time taunting the 2 girls while he was there. He threatened that he was going to murder them or sell them into a prostitution ring. Luckily, Schaefer was radioed to respond to a call while in the woods with the girls. While he was away, the girls were able to free themselves from the ligatures that held them to the tree. The girls ran as fast and hard as they could until they reached the closest police station in sight. Ironically, this police station happened to be the same police station that Gerard Schaefer worked. When Schaefer realized that the girls had freed themselves, he tried to call into his superior officer and explained that he had taken the 2 girls and tried to teach them a lesson in the dangers of hitchhiking. Fortunately, Schaefer's boss did not believe a word of it. He called Gerard into the station and arrested him on the spot. Gerard Schaefer posted bail shortly after this, and this is when the nightmare would go into full action. Just 2 months later, September of 1972, Schaefer would carry out his evil fantasies on 2 female teenagers. He abducted 17-year-old Susan Place and 16-year-old Georgia Jessup. After taking the teenage girls, he tortured and assaulted and then killed them. While searching Schaefer's home, investigators would find graphic stories that he had written about the 2 teenage girls, which tied him directly to the murders. The officers also came across several personal items that belonged to the teenagers. He would go on to be convicted in the murders of Susan Place and Georgia Jessup. This is not the end of Gerard Schaefer's story, though. He continued to write letters and attempt phone calls to his victims' families. He would threaten them and mock them on their loss of their loved ones. He continued the horror he brought on these families from prison, never allowing them to have any form of closure. But one day, in 1995, all of this called up to Schaefer. He was found stabbed to death in his jail cell on December 3, 1995. Another inmate, Vincent Rivera, would go on to be convicted in his stabbing, but he never admitted to it or gave any motive for why he killed Schaefer. As law-abiding citizens, we walk the streets of our hometowns and know that we are protected by the men and women serving in law enforcement. Unfortunately, even in the world of crime fighting, evil men exist. The 3 cases we explored today is a lesson that you never really can trust someone, no matter what side of the law they claim to be. Thank you so much for joining us today as we looked at 3 killer cops. We thank you so much for all of the encouragement and support that you give us, and we promise to continue to bring you quality content during these dark times that we find ourselves. Please like, subscribe, share, and post a comment. Hit that bell to receive notifications when we post content. Until the next one.